There we go. Awesome. So the first real panel of the day, the interesting sessions that you want to start hearing from, which isn't me, but we have Nik. And I think most of you know Nik. If not, he'll introduce himself, the same as our other panelists. But we've got a fantastic first panelist, and I jest when I call it the buzzword bingo panel. But really, when we were talking about what the topic of this panel was going to be, I mean, that was really our starting point. Do we want to talk about tech? Do we want to talk about big data? Do we want to talk about, again, regular followers of mine know my charge-out rate goes up every time I talk about gamified millennial blockchains. My accountant said I had to stop doing it. It's going to push me to a new higher tax bracket. But that's so 2018. We don't talk about gamified millennial blockchains anymore. We've moved on from that. Even NFTs are like NFTs, or maybe they're not. We'll explore the brains trust here to talk, to have a look at shiny new objects, what's relevant, what's not relevant, and I'm sure there'll be lots of questions afterwards. All yours, Nik.
Hi, everyone. So we'll start with very brief introduction. So, as Dave mentioned, Nik Laming, based in Asia. I've been in the loyalty game for more than 20 years as a consultant, but I've also built and managed programs, and I'm now doing some offshore resourcing as well to add to it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carolina. I'm with Air Canada. I've been in the loyalty business for 10 years now, first with AMIA, then Aeroplan, now Air Canada. Before that, I spent some years in analytical roles in the marketing and software industry.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jon Parise. I am the co-founder and chief revenue officer of GigLabs. We have a marketing platform that uses Web3 technology to build customer relationships. My background is I spent 4 years working with Phil at our Dialogue. So I did a lot of loyalty consulting, and I ran customer marketing for a fintech company prior to this.
Hey everyone, Tina Moore. I lead partnerships and business development in the US for Ascenda. Prior to Ascenda, I was one of the founding members of the rewards on the team that launched the product, so built that from scratch. I was there for 2 years, and prior to that was with American Express managing partnerships for membership rewards, as well as some of the embedded benefits on the Platinum and Centurion cards.
Hey everybody, Ritin, Dhawan, Chief Product and Chief Operating Officer for Capital One Card Partnerships business. I've been with Capital One for 18 years and in kind of credit card loyalty and co-brand space for the last 10 years.
Very good. Right, let's get into it. So, by way of introduction, again, as Dave mentioned, we're going to talk about shiny new things in technology. Now, I think I'm right in saying that we're not technologists, but what we have been are users and victims and beneficiaries of technology in the loyalty industry. And I'll just run through some of the things that we may or may not touch on today as either a shiny new thing or perhaps a plank that's built the foundation of some of the businesses that we see here. Blockchain, it would be rude not to start with that one. It was lauded to be the future for loyalty. It was going to be a new business model with points exchanges for everyone where points could be used across the world with no boundaries between programs, and it really has failed in that capacity. And we've seen pivots by people or companies that have been selling blockchain solutions because essentially I think it was a solution looking for a problem, and we couldn't really identify a problem in core loyalty, but perhaps it's being used elsewhere still, and we will find out more later on. NFTs. We've got Jon here, who's our whipping boy on that today. He proudly put himself forward as, I'm going to talk about NFTs, and never mind the eye rolls, I'm going to make a success of it. So we look forward to hearing more from him. And again, I see that just saying NFT, it's a very broad topic actually, and there are uses for it, just like there are uses in blockchain with currency exchanges, for example, and smart contracts. So look forward again to hearing some more about NFTs. AI in loyalty management systems for fraud management, anomaly detection, but right through to offer optimization and apparently taking all of our jobs. So ChatGPT, the most intelligent assistant, or a scary, corruptible IP thief? Jury's out. Cloud services. Again, this is really in the back office, but I don't think we recognize sometimes the capability that cloud services have brought us, in that tools like AWS and Azure have all these microservices and services built into them so that you can use them as a foundation to transform your technology stack and deliver across borders while satisfying privacy and security concerns. So the cloud is one of those understated things that's just happened, and we'll hear some more about that, I'm sure. Finally, apps. Now, apps and super apps and airlines that have become super apps is another topic where I'm intrigued as to whether they would truly be considered as a success story. And again, are they a silver bullet for loyalty to solve all of our engagement and communication needs? So plenty of things to talk about, and I think I'll start with an easy one. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put your hand up and we'll come straight to you. So, general question, we'll start with Ritin at the end. What's the biggest single technology development your organization is most proud of?
I think the way I describe it is we've been very public about our tech transformation, right? Like the way we talk about ourselves is we happen to be a tech company that just happens to be in banking. Under the leadership of our CEO and founder, Rich Fairbank, we've been all in on, like, we were the first financial company to go all in on public cloud and make that public declaration. And I think the thing you talked about, like just getting, that was just a premise of really building the foundation and really building our technology from the bottom of the stack up so that we have the nimbleness, so we have the speed, so we have the modularity, what you need to deliver what the customer requires today, which is a real-time experiences that are intelligent, that are grounded in the data, that are grounded in the insights that's happening with them right now, that they are not backward looking. And I think to do that, many a time people can start from just building the experience, but if you don't have the back end ready, you don't do that. So I'd say our tech transformation and our commitment to cloud and really building our stack has been game-changing for us.
And I'd add some context to that in that I think we're quite fortunate that we have a large financial institution represented and a large airline represented, and they're highly regulated. They cannot make mistakes. It's not an option to fail fast. You have to succeed, and as fast as possible. So new technology decisions and using these technologies is really strategic, because it's not like you can jump into every little thing that takes your fancy. So let's hear from the airline on your best technology development.
So bingo point for me, AI, right away. You know, it's been at least 5 years that we started investing in partnerships and collaborations with academia and specific projects for different parts of our business under the AI umbrella. So, you know, you have your usual suspects, the very big impactful ones, like how to better configure the cargo on the belly of your plane. AI can help you there. We are already harnessing that power. Price optimization, already there. When we talk about loyalty, I'll start by saying it's all about having also a great product. Like, you could have very, very fancy technology around it, but then are you making life easier for the member? Is it a seamless experience for them? So on that side, for example, this year we started doing some face recognition pilot from the Vancouver airport. Blockchain is part of that because of, you know, the encryption of the data and things like that. And particularly for me, I've been working for years with one foot on the analytics side and another from a business ownership perspective. And we've been using machine learning for a while now to train models that are going to help us be more relevant. So really AI, like I'm proud that we knew this was something that wasn't going to be shiny, like it's the future, right? And we have already been applying it in different parts of the business, and it's just the beginning.
Last night, I just got to share this quick story. When we were in there having the happy hour, I was talking to Carolina, and she said, we're driving a lot of innovation with ML. And I couldn't hear because of the music, and I thought she said email. And I was like, yeah, email's pretty innovative. And she was like confused. I was like, no, machine learning. I was like, oh, okay.
A little bit more modern than email.
Email can be still pretty powerful.
That's a funny story.
Nice segue to you, Jon. So maybe we can change it up a little bit, given that you're on the supply side of the equation. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about NFTs.
Just go. NFTs, go. No, I mean, it is, to answer, kind of go back to the original question, like working in a tech startup, and especially like an emerging technology, and I'm not writing code, but I have partners who do, and a team that does, and they do something completely groundbreaking. It feels like every other week. It is very cool. I mean, for me, with NFTs, and my focus has really always been on the marketing side. So NFTs are a very, very broad topic. Same as blockchain, it can be a very, very broad topic. Like Phil mentioned, loyalty being stuck. This was something, when I was working at our dialogue 10 years ago, we were saying similar things. And I think a lot of times when we were coming in to talk with new clients who were looking to revamp their loyalty programs, we were trying to avoid points if we could. And it always had resistance, always resistance. And so for me, when I started to understand what NFTs were, especially around the ideas of ownership of a digital asset, the kind of freedom the consumer has with it, transferability, yes, being able to sell it, but that may not always be the primary use case. And the whole interoperability and the ability to launch partnerships without needing to share PII between brands. And just, there's a lot of power behind that. And so I've been very focused on how do we take this platform that we have, which is being able to create and distribute these digital assets. We, by the way, have avoided the word or the acronym NFT recently. I mean, it definitely does get a lot of pushback. I think because, and we're like around a lot of these topics, there's so much hype and so much hyperbole that it discredits like what the actual use case can be. So people are often like dismissive of the technology, not just blockchain or NFTs, but AI and ChatGPT and like whatever else that comes up. People want to talk about how it's going to change everything. So we're very focused right now on practical applications of the technology and how it can make the customer experience better, how it can drive drive towards your business objectives. And when I'll just end with this, when we saw a lot of brands jumping into NFT projects 18 months ago, they were completely disconnected from everything else that the business was doing. It just didn't make sense. And so they would do it and they'd say, all right, we did our innovation and we're tech savvy and whatever else, but they didn't actually like think about how it could actually be applied to their business. Now that we've sort of gotten past that phase, we're actually starting to see real applications, which is very cool.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, because we see this evangelism, and if you don't have NFT or blockchain in your offering, then you're never going to sell anything, you're never going to be able to deliver. And it takes a while for that to die away. And once it dies away, then you really get to see, okay, there is a genuine application for this thing, but we can do it quietly, and we don't need to shout about it, and it doesn't need to be the core of our offering. It's a bit like if you don't have a good product, there's no point in polishing up your marketing to the extent to try and make it something that it's not. So yeah, interesting point. Tina.
Nick, just to
Yes.
jump in before you move on to Tina. So Jon, I just want to really re-emphasize a couple of points you raised, because I think this is going to keep coming up. Two big points you made. Number one, your focus from where you stand on delivering commercial solutions. And it's almost irrelevant what the tech is, behind. I mean, you could be doing FTP file transfers. If it's going to solve a commercial problem, that's great. It happens to be that we have better technologies now than slow file transfers, which we are all very familiar with, right? But you also made the point that you avoid the terminology as much as you can because it gets people's backs up really quickly. But I really was interested, maybe if we could just spend an extra 2 minutes just exploring that last comment you made, that a number of brands that have been diving into this space recently completely disconnected from the brand, from the commercial direction of the company, all the rest of it. And it really fits into sort of a narrative we've been talking about for years, and that is that we go back to 2018, 2019, Nick, and we were explaining to people, blockchain is a solution in search of a problem, and people using the buzzword bingo now of NFTs and all the rest. Generally speaking, if somebody pitches your inbox talking about NFTs, just delete it. It's not even worth a reply calling them out.
Unless it's me.
Unless it's Nick, and Nick has some very commercial solutions.
Or John,
he can
yeah,
talk to
sorry.
you about.
More
Yes.
importantly, John.
Yeah, but the way I would never email someone and say, hey, are you looking to launch an NFT project?
Yeah,
Like,
but
that's
no,
not-
no, but that's what I want to kind of maybe if you could spend 2 minutes on is you mentioned a couple of big brands, and they've, big flashy projects that have been out in the marketplace, really because somebody in the coloring department felt that there was maybe some brand value in being seen to be on board with whatever maybe the next big thing. And let's be fair for a moment, somebody in the strategy department might have thought, you know what, there may be absolutely nothing in this, but maybe we should dip a toe in the water just in case, so we're not completely left behind. I think there is a legitimate strategic aspect to maybe think about that. Flashy projects. I mean, probably the biggest out there is Starbucks Odyssey. Maybe, and you can use a different example if you want, but I'm really interested in maybe just, I know this is a bit of a foreign topic for a lot of people, maybe an extra 2 minutes just talking some about these projects and how you feel there's a major disconnect there and why you've sort of implied there's a question mark.
So Starbucks Odyssey is a really interesting one because they clearly made a big investment in this. When it launched, like in October, or when they announced it, it was definitely getting a lot of attention in the loyalty marketing space, for sure. I think one of our topics here is like should you test and learn or should you wait and see around new technology and new innovation? Right now, I would be curious how many people, like what you feel about Starbucks Odyssey, because you don't hear about it anymore, right? And if you go into a Starbucks and you ask a barista about it, they are gonna be completely confused about what it is. So it's hard for me to speak on it because I don't know what's happening behind the scenes and what conversations they're having and how they're starting to learn how this can be integrated into the rest of the business. Nike's a good example of using NFTs right now, but it's not programmatic. It's not like a loyalty program. It's more creating loyalty around these digital assets, which I find really interesting. I don't get super excited about points programs. I certainly participate in them just because it's like, why not? Like, why shouldn't I? But I think a lot of the brands that are doing it now are still slowly rolling it out. It's not going to be like a massive splash like some of these projects that were getting announced 12 months ago or something like that. But all of those were like drops, and that's not what people are really kind of interested in.
And for me, if you can strip away the technology and the buzzwords and it still makes sense, then you're probably onto something. The other thing with technology is it's often the unseen, unheard stuff that's important. I think Capital One have invested a lot in cloud, and you've got some sort of milestones and some firsts in terms of banking, and it's tough to do, and you'll probably never hear about it. And as a customer, I'm interested to see how an initiative like that has, and sorry, we'll get to you in a minute, Tina, has impacted customer experience, because there must have been a reason for you doing it, and yet you don't have to shout about it because it's clearly making a difference in the business without buzzwords.
Yeah, I think you guys are all talking about it, right? Like, it's not technology for the sake of technology, right? What are you trying to solve for? What's the business problem you're solving for? What is the customer problem you're solving for? And I think for us, the tech modernization journey was all in the service of that, right? Like when it was more towards getting to a place where we're able to deliver solutions for our customers and our business rapidly and at a rapid speed, but also that these are real-time experiences, that we have a full sense of the data that we have and how we know the customer, and we can really understand that across channels. It's not that an email going out here and you log in and you don't see anything. you can't fix those problems without having fundamental technology in place and data in place in the real time. And I think that's what the investment was. And how it is showing up is, if you look at our mobile app is rated highest kind of in J.D. Power and other places, right? It has customer engagement. We have gone to a place where 80 to 90% of our customers are engaging with us digitally with these products. With pandemic and when COVID happened, we were able to pivot and overnight send 10,000 associates to work from home and take call center calls without having to worry about it, because we had built nimble technology. For our co-brand partners, like, we have built technology for ourselves and for our customers, and our partners benefit from that technology as a turnkey thing, because we can make it available to them in a ready-to-consume, easy to integrate manner. That's not like a multi-year project for them anymore, right? So it's more of, at the end of the day, how is technology helping you solve the business problem and the customer problem? And you always have to work backwards from that outcome for it to be successful.
Yeah. Tina, comment on anything that we've talked about so far. There you go.
Oh God. I guess I'll probably answer your initial question and then kind of go from there about what we think anyway as a company has been the most, the best kind of technological advancement we've made. Just for context, Ascenda powers loyalty programs for traditionally big banks, but a lot more fintechs recently with the emerge of the many consumer and corporate fintechs in the US. So I think the key thing for us has always been simplicity, both for our clients, so the banks, the fintechs, and also for the customers. And that's really what's core of like everything that we're trying to do. And that's creating very easy to use user experiences. We've become very, very good at integrating with, sorry for all the airlines and the banks in the room, but really old, archaic legacy platforms that they might be using, and doing that in a really easy way, kind of creating almost adapters that will enable us to plug into them easily. And instead of integrating with multiple vendors, they can get everything from us. So the simplicity is kind of core of what we would say our best capability is. We think about blockchain, so we're always trying to think about, what's next, what's happening in the industry. So blockchain is something that we've definitely looked at for many years. Prior to me joining the business, and this might be a bit of a harsh comment, but I don't think it really has any, at least there's no good use cases of it in loyalty today. So it's very much, using blockchain for the sake of using blockchain, and other technology could solve for the same issues in a better way, in a cheaper way. Like, in my opinion, it's not really the right tool, at least at the moment, in its current capacity for loyalty. But we do always have about 20% of our developers working on, what's new, what's shiny, looking at AI, and we've seen a lot of success there with marketing campaigns. So where we've used AI, there's been about 5x higher ROI in those campaigns by getting new customers. So those are definitely kind of some of how we think about it as a business. But I'd sort of take a step back just for data. So I've always been on the loyalty program side of things prior to this role. So, building loyalty programs myself. And so I've worked with a lot of different vendors and have definitely experienced a lot of pain points. So when, we have clients come to us, we're looking to launch new loyalty programs, they're trying to think about, how to do things differently. And I think the major shift I've seen, and this is all data-based, is going from transactional bonusing, so on credit cards specifically, so on spend, to actually rewarding on other things and using event-based data. So it could be downloading an app, it could be setting auto pay. So actually looking at the program holistically and thinking more about what data do you have that's not just somebody swiping a card, somebody booking a flight, and trying to use that data holistically within the program to really engage customers and to drive the behaviors that you want to drive. And I think that's, when I have clients come to me and they say, well, we want to launch a loyalty program, we don't know where to start. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want your customers to do? Is the first question I ask them. Do you want them to use a card? Do you want them, what are the behaviors that you want your customers to take in order to, drive revenue or the objectives you want? And to actually take a step back and to think about how loyalty can do that for the business, and not just think, we should just be doing what our competitors are doing. And I think data is really key to driving that.
And on the subject of data, another hot topic is privacy and data security. There's stricter and stricter legislation on data privacy. So how can technology aid loyalty programs and CRM activities in dealing with this stricter regime that we're seeing? And I'll point this at you, Caroline, because we spoke about it earlier.
Yes, thanks, Nick. So I see an ideal state there where, we know we're just going to go more stringent. Like, the world is just going more into privacy. We have the GDPR rules in Europe that are very stringent. We know that members know that their data is valuable, and we're just going to see more legislation on that. I think that's the trend that we're seeing. And there are very big opportunities, actually, with technology. One that I've been thinking about that will be an ideal state, but as yesterday I was mentioning, like, we need to know where we are, frame our business problem and solution, and then just strive in small increments to get there. But I think there's an opportunity to do more real-time. Train real-time models that are not going to need to dive into a whole stack of data, past transactions, where we seen you in the coalition. Like, I think this, I'm just putting it out there. We're thinking a lot about how can we best integrate the different data signals that we have for our customers that we can get from different parts of the coalition, for example, the past flight history, et cetera. But then at the end, it's all about recency, right? A member is going to go there, is going to start clicking, they're going to go to Google, they're going to start searching for a flight, and if you train your models right, and again, it's an ideal state, you don't need to collect a lot of data of them, to process a lot of data. Like, you can just train the models better to say, okay, so like just I think someone was mentioning, it's like a binary, for the micro rewards. It's like a binary transaction. So I just saw you doing this, now I'm going to propose this to you. And then the better, those models get trained, the less you need to be, like diving into all the transaction data that you have from them before. And then it's more about what they're doing now. How can you be relevant now without running maybe the way we've been doing lately, which is, we have a lot of data, we want to do cluster analysis, let's do segmentation. I'm not saying that's going away at all, but I think we're going to get better, faster, and for privacy, then maybe you don't need to know everything they just did with you in order to propose the next best thing. So I think that's something that I would like to see us implementing eventually, and we're going to get there thanks to technology.
Any other thoughts on technology? You obviously deal with a lot of data privacy between banks and airlines. There's lots of parties. So what have you done with your tech?
So I think, look, as we're a global company, we work across the world. There's obviously different regulations, different requirements, whether it's federal banks, etc. So it definitely varies greatly. I think with the advancements in technology, there comes new challenges with privacy as well. So that's forever evolving and something that we obviously have to keep up with and keep up with the legislation across different countries. I think for the most part, like, customers, are happy to share data, and they're happy to give that to brands, but expect it to be, used respectfully. And, even I say respectfully, like, when you think about marketing, like, there's nothing worse than getting, targeted with something that's totally irrelevant. Like, that's what I would consider disrespectful in this day and age, because, I'm happy to share, but I expect for it to be used appropriately and to actually get some value out of it at the end. But that would be, as far as, as we work with clients, it's really just kind of keeping up with the technology and the new challenges that comes with evolving technology and privacy.
And Jon, Web 3, what can that offer us?
I don't necessarily think this is imminent, but I think the idea that you're going to have to deliver an experience to a customer and expect to know them without actually knowing who they are is potentially going to happen. Not very soon, but it's just the trends are heading that way, right? All the regulation, technology cracking down on cookies, and just consumers wanting to be more private, I think is going to happen. It's where blockchain and NFTs could play a big role. Is that like I can tell a brand like acknowledge me without knowing my email address and not knowing who I am. So they can see my wallet, they can see what I've done with the brand. If I've been collecting tokens from them, collectibles, commemorative tickets, whatever, an NFT can be anything, right? But if you start to build that relationship with the customer, then you always know who they are. You can always sort of track them from the blockchain. You may not know it's Jon Parise, but you may know it's this wallet address, and you can see the history of their interactions with your brand. I mean, it's just, to me, a lot of marketing technology for years has always been built around making sure the brand will never forget who you are. Like, they'll track your history through all of time. But there's nothing for like the customer to remember you. And it's so easy for the customer to opt out now, and so easy for customers just to or for regulation to say you're not allowed to remember who that customer is. And so that's where I see a potential for NFTs and for blockchain to be able to track that history of the customer without actually having to share a lot of information.
All being too spookily, overly friendly and close. Changing gears. So how does Capital One, or any of you guys, evaluate and select new technologies? In that you only have a certain number of choices, you only have a certain number of resources. When you make a decision, it's for the long term, because otherwise you're in real hot water. So how do you do that?
I think I go back to the same thing, which is like there's a little bit of a test and learn strategy and test and learn thinking, which is you don't know what's working for you if you don't experiment with it and test with it, right? So you have to figure out the relevancy, you have to see what the technology is, but you also have to think about not just what the technology is, but what can you do with it? And where in your business would it fit it? So I think our approach to this consistently remains the test and learn, which is very much of, as these technologies come to bear, more not just look at the technology, but look at what are the business problems we're trying to solve, what does the match of that looks like, and to the where there is a fit, go experiment, go figure that out. And I think to your point on fail fast a little bit of, like fail fast, but also at the same time from a success standpoint, there needs to be a very high bar for what the success looks like, right? It's not just experimentation for the sake of experimentation. So how do you achieve that balance that's our philosophy and how we think about that. And that's been pretty helpful for us as we think about areas where we've leaned into, whether that is machine learning or other things that we think there is real value in investing, there's a real business need, there's a real customer need, but at the same time for the others, you want to just sit and evaluate and say, okay, maybe that's not for us right now.
Yeah, to that I'd like to add that, I think that still the title of the panel is, Are We Lost in the Big? I know we changed a little bit the title, but not to get lost, you need to ask the right questions. So to your point, you need to really frame what's the business problem and where do you want to be in a few years, right? And then technology needs to follow. And hopefully it's, just helping a great product, because you can be very fancy, again, with your models if you don't have a great product out there. Like, it's just not going to work. So you really need to know exactly what your vision is, where you're striving to get, and then, again, small increments, test and learn, and then, demonstrate the value of the decisions you're taking, ROI, like all those KPIs that we're always chasing to, and you cannot get wrong if you follow that recipe, although, we know that we don't know exactly how the world's going to look in 5 years, but then you know how you want to position your product, what's the plan for your brand, and think always about how you're going to make this a better experience for your members. Seamless, great product, something that you can actually, feel very proud about marketing.
Very good. So, ChatGPT, that's another interesting topic. When I first saw ChatGPT, I was blown away. And I was writing job descriptions and new contracts and all kinds of things that would normally take me weeks because I could never get started. In this way, I just told ChatGPT, and then you can refine it, and it's wonderful. And then I started using it for other stuff. I did a little test on LinkedIn because everyone was posting their predictions for 2023, there are 10 predictions in loyalty. I asked ChatGPT, even though it was data a few years old, and it came out with a pretty serviceable answer. And then I thought, well, how can I use this more? And I thought, well, maybe I've got some new ideas for products. But before I started, had this nagging doubt that, well, if I put it in ChatGPT, it's going to go away and look at what everyone else has said on this topic. And if it doesn't have anything, it's going to learn from me. And sure enough, a few months later, we started to see organizations saying, hang on, don't put things in ChatGPT, don't put things in the public domain, essentially, because that's our IP. So it's contentious. It's also potentially extremely powerful. And I don't know whether I'm going to get any answers on this, but ChatGPT, what do you think it may mean to your organization?
You definitely make me think, what did I put in ChatGPT?
Well,
I've already cooked a recipe that ChatGPT gave me, and actually it turned out very good.
So I could potentially go on this afternoon and improve that by 15%. And
But I think I was at an AI conference last week in Montreal, and then Professor Joshua Benjo, which is one of the godfathers of deep learning, was speaking there. And then, they were presenting the program for an AI that was going to be more robust, responsible, and reasoning. And I know those are more buzzwords, right? But for me, I think at the end, kind of the conclusion, and something that I've talked to my colleagues at AC, they've been participating at events like Everyday AI in Toronto. Again, we collaborate with academia. We've been doing that for years. So I think at the end, kind of the consensus is that ChatGPT is going to be there to augment you, not to replace you. But it's not there yet anyway. Like, it can already help to augment you, but before this, I actually started asking ChatGPT, okay, so what would you say is the ideal segment for a flight offer to Copenhagen? Because we're starting to fly, we're flying that route now, right? And then ChatGPT just gave me like something very generic. And then I asked, no, but think of a Canadian woman in the 40s that really like adventure. How would you market this to them? And then again, very, very generic things that do a better segmentation. How do you suggest I do a better segmentation? Oh, well, you have always need to think about this. So at the end, it's not there, but when it gets better, like, I think it's a really cool tool that could definitely help us to liberate, to free up some time that we were spending in massaging data and help us unlock the insights. But that's why we're there for, right? And really, that's how I feel it. It's there to augment us. So.
And it wrote me a very good modern slavery policy that I needed. So it did that in a few minutes. I think where it's generally available and it's not secret, then it seems to work very well. But John?
Yeah, we haven't done too much with it, like specifically in our world. I've certainly played with it a bunch. I've done a lot of content creation, but that's not really more on like the customer experience side. I like completely random and disconnected from what I do, but I think like it replaces a concierge at a hotel or anything like that. I mean, you always need that local knowledge, but I've used it when I travel. I used it before I came here. I said, I'm staying at the Thompson Hotel. Where are some good restaurants that I can go to? I think for an airline, if you book your flight and it's like, talk to us, and you say, okay, we're going to Washington, D.C., and then you can just like have a conversation. It's really weird if you know that it's like ChatGPT, but it's great because it like makes the trip better. Mm-hmm. And so if you weren't sending them to ChatGPT to do it, but it was all branded on Air Canada's site, and it was like, talk to Air Canada's, give it a cool, fun name, and then it just makes the whole experience better for the customer. And that's, I mean, customer experiences to me is what builds loyalty, and if you can make it a better experience, that'll just help.
And I'd just like to add, because one of the things that Air Canada has announced, that we want to start testing is, can this helps us solve for easy things that are very frustrating for customers, like my flight just got canceled, what are my options for the next rebooking? So those are things that, that they're no-brainers, but they're very difficult to implement and put into production if you are not leveraging this kind of technology it's just going to make it easier. For very simple problems and pain points, friction points that are there, and now you can, think that you could do it better, faster, and learn from it, and just keep on improving.
Yeah, just to echo that, I think, yeah, customer servicing is where there's a big opportunity, and it's something that we have been looking at as we think about servicing our customers. In some instances, we're servicing our clients' customers directly. So how do we build that in to make the customer experience more seamless? So it is something that we are actively looking at and seeing, what the application could be. Controversially enough, I've actually never used ChatGPT. I know what it is, and I've seen other people use it, and I've watched other people play around with it. I just kind of felt like it was a rabbit hole I was going to go down, that I spent enough time doing nonsensical things, so I kind of thought it was better not to. But I think there's great applications for it, and I think servicing is where I see the most value in the industry.
Just to add on to that, so there's another tool called DALL-E, which is another OpenAI, and what that does is it creates images. So you give it a description and it creates images. So my business is called Urban Leopard. So I set it the challenge of coming up with some sort of new imagery that I could use in my business, and I tried many different ways of telling it what I wanted, and it was an epic fail. And a huge waste of time. So I had to go back to a good old-fashioned designer. So it's definitely not there yet,
So
and it's definitely a rabbit hole.
Tuna, because it's very entertaining as well.
It is.
I've sat, around a laptop with some friends, and they've been, doing stupid things like getting a picture of a frog with, a beret on them. Ridiculous things. And so I understand in concept, and I've seen them play around with it. I've just never kind of dedicated my own time to it. But I'll take that away as an action item for today.
Ritin?
I don't have. I've played with ChatGPT. The only thing I've done is search for summer plan for my kids and see what activities we can get into, but nothing beyond that. I think to me, it's a little bit of like web democratized information. ChatGPT is trying to democratize knowledge. Now the question is, what do you do with that knowledge, and how do you use that knowledge, and what do you do? I like the concierge kind of parallel. I think it's making things easier, contextual for you. It's not just sending you a list of pages and you can make sense of it, versus giving you something that is useful. Now, when you think about applicability, you have to think about, like, I agree with you on the IP thing, which is like, what is a responsible way of using it, and what does that look like for each organization? What are the mundane tasks? You can take it away. I can see many applications which are very helpful. I think talking to your customers in a very intelligent way is not new. That's not ChatGPT. That thing is called natural language processing, and like that thing has existed for years, right? So what can you do with that beyond? It's to be seen. Good tool. Where you go with it, a lot to be figured out yet.
That made me thought of something. So not only from the business to the customers, but even inside the business. At Air Canada, we partner with an enterprise solution that actually is helping us, and I'm going to say it the way we always describe it, like put the traveler in the hands of the business. So meaning our advanced analytic colleagues are building an app that, me in marketing, I'm going to be using to get better, take better decisions, get better insights. So that's already, let's not think about it only, what it can do for external customers, for your members, but also inside your own organization.
Just looking to see, how long have we got left, Dave? 2 minutes. All right. Well, let's finish with, maybe we talked about we shouldn't finish on a negative.
Whatever you got left, Nick, let's just go for it.
No, I'm not going to finish on a negative. I refuse. That was such a good conversation. I'm going to finish by just summing up what was said there about ChatGPT, because I think it's a very interesting area. We're not sure of the applications of it for loyalty. It does come with a big health warning. I was trying to train my kids on it because both of them, I introduced it to them and I thought, oh God, they're going to get kicked out of university and school for plagiarizing immediately. But then my son very proudly said, no, if I put it into one AI and then I run it through another AI and then I run it through another AI, there's no way on earth that they would be able to chase it back.
Has he heard of Turnitin?
I'll finish there.
So just very quickly before we finish up, so maybe we could just do kind of a quick rapid fire predictions, but as Phil just whispered my ear, add to your prediction sort of time frame. Are you talking 12 months, 18 months, 5-year horizon? Ritin, we'll start with you.
For ChatGPT or any kind of
Technology.
I think technology is changing every day. I think that you build a model technology today and in 6 months it's old, right? So it's not about just building a technology and leaving it on the side. It's how are you keeping pace with the innovations that is coming and taking advantage of the innovation, but really investing in working backward. What is the customer problem you're solving? And really think about the customer experience holistically and think through that as a journey. I think that's a thing, that's a trend. And that's not a trend, that's a need of the business that's just going to continue. And I think you talked about earlier, loyalty is not a thing on the side, loyalty is not a marketing, it is a customer thing. It is you are investing in personalizing your relationship with the brand. And I think that's how we think about it at Capital One, whether that is for ourselves, with our customers directly, or with our partners in the co-brand system. And how do we do that?
Tina?
So I guess just some things that I'm seeing from new clients that we've spoken to or working with. There's another buzzword we didn't use is Bitcoin, right? So this convergence of Bitcoin and loyalty, and there's been a couple of brands that have come to us and said, oh, we have a coin and we want to see how that could work, how that could convert into a loyalty currency, and could that be exchanged into airline miles, and it's starting to get a little bit convoluted, and thinking about how all these things kind of pull together, and NFTs is a part of that too. Another company who's looking at NFTs in the dining space and how that integrates with loyalty, and I think that it's either it will work or it won't. I think either all these things will come together and it will make sense and holistically, or it's just going to be a big mess. So I think trying to figure out what the benefits are for the customer, what these brands are trying to achieve, what they're trying to drive, and what the convergence of all this technology actually means, and if it's actually going to make things better, or to Phil's point, are we going to be back when we were worse off than we were in the 80s, right? Because we've just overcomplicated everything. But there are just some interesting things that I've kind of noticed recently with clients that we've been speaking to.
John?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't make a prediction about NFTs.
Without mentioning NFT.
Well, I'll say this, and I said earlier how I didn't really like the hyperbole that surrounds the industry, but I really believe that NFTs will be ubiquitous across not just marketing, but in our everyday lives. So the things like the title to your car, the deed to your house, your driver's license.
Your airline tickets.
Certainly. And that's where we're going to be starting, because those things are safer than the title to my car and the deed to my house. It's safer to say, here's a reward that's an NFT, because if you lose it, it's not the end of the world. And that's what a lot of these use cases in NFTs that seem sometimes silly, like the metaverse. We haven't talked about the metaverse. That would have been buzzy. But when you talk about a plot of land in Decentraland, that's kind of what it is. It's not something maybe somebody wants to have in the digital world, but in your real life to have something that's verifiable and clearly you know who owns it. I do think that's going to happen. Probably not for 15 to 20 years, honestly. There's just too much, talk about things being stuck, too much bureaucracy, too much things that would have to change. But I do think it's gonna happen.
Galena?
So, well, it's happening. Tomorrow, it's only incrementals, and I think, my last comment will be, everyone is going to be jumping into that wagon. Some of, Canada, we've been doing this for 5 years now. But then, I imagine other airlines are investing the same way we are. But then what's going to make the difference is how good you are at actually implementing, learn from your mistakes, and always strive to do better. That's going to be the differentiator.
Yeah, and I think having a good strategy is more important than the technology that enables it. Make sure it's not the tail wagging the dog. So decide on what the strategy is, what's going to be the customer impact or the impact on your business, and then figure out what technology matches it. And then don't just jump around between technologies. I love the Cap One story, which is, look, we went big on cloud. A bank in the cloud would have been, you'd never have thought that that could happen. And so to achieve that is a massive thing in its own right. So yeah, stick to fewer, better things that make a big impact.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everybody.